volume indicators. Volume indicators are extremely important and useful for my personal trading. There are only three of them, so once again it's nothing too complicated to go through. So like I said in the previous video, the volume is telling you the amount of contracts traded for every given period. As delta is difference between market buying and selling, the volume just kind of put all these things together, and it is the volume. So the relative volume compares the prior volume over a given period of time. This is done by using a simple moving average, deviation from something like Bollinger Bands, or any kind of mean. What is important to know is that high relative volume is signal of a breakout and end of the moves. The low relative volume is signal of thin spots in price that can get filled in the future. And you can see all high relative volume candles here are blue, so there is no difference between buying and selling in this case. But you can see market goes up on a high relative volume, marks out the end of the move. Market breaks out on the high relative volume, market moves lower. Once again, pull back into resistance on high relative volumes, one more like lower. You'll have a pickup on relative volume, which will kind of form the bottom. These low volume candles get quickly filled, market moves up, once again some higher relative volumes, low relative volume here gets filled, sold off. This is obvious increase in a high relative volume below the support, so once again you're kind of a failed swing pattern. Market then moves higher on high relative volume and sells off. Obviously not every bar is relevant, but I hope you can see the most important ones are obviously going to be after the kind of a strong moves, buying on high relative volume with no follow through after taking this level of resistance is a little bit suspicious. Once again, what it makes it tricky is that you have a V reversal to the level, but this is, I think, the same example that I showed you previously. Another example of high relative volumes, and I'm pretty sure you can see that, a lot of buying, market immediately slows down, relative volumes overall at the bottoms and the tops, and in kind of a breakout moves are very often the signals. And you can see even the low volumes here, how market moves out and then immediately fills it back before making a move higher. The z-score is how the relative volume can get calculated. This is one of probably the better ways of doing things. I just figured out that I will include it in the video because people are asking me about this sometimes, and I sometimes mention it when it comes to trading altcoins, for example, where you are looking at z-score of different altcoins based on daily moves and volatility. So you have this standard distribution bell curve. This is your 0 point mean, and z-score measures how far from the mean is the distribution, basically. So sometimes you will see this. This is basically how a lot of things get calculated when it comes to volatility, volumes, and so on and so forth. Just once again, it's a simple thing. VWAP is the volume weighted average price that can be plotted as a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, anchored, and many other ways. And it's a moving average based on volume. The TWAP, which we mentioned at the beginning of all of this, the time weighted average price, is based on the time. This one is based on the volume. And it's basically a moving average. It acts as dynamic support and resistance, and there are some nuances to it you should know about. if for any given day or period the VWAP is pointing up or down, it signals that underlying trend is in play, and the VWAP can be used as dynamic support and resistance. This is basically one of the best ways to use VWAP, where you have a clean kind of a trend direction, and you are using it on bounces from as support and resistance. When VWAP is flat, it's a mean reverting market, and you will see that VWAP gets just traded through many times. In here you can see how market just kind of traded through the VWAP. But once it started selling off, this started acted as a dynamic SR, on the pullbacks. When VWAP get tested plenty of times, it loses its significance. This is same as, if you have 100-day moving average on chart and market trades 10 times through it in couple of days, you are not really putting it much significance to it. At the bottom you can see the calculation of VWAP for those that are interested. This chart, this is a monthly VWAP. The purple one is weekly and the blue one is daily actually. I usually only use a daily one. I'm sometimes looking at weekly and monthly, but not that much. It's once again one of those things that can be useful, but sometimes you will just get out of a trade too soon because of it. So I have it plotted in my footprint chart actually, so I can see where the VWAP is for a day. The generally is better if it's not on the way. If you are getting long and you are above the VWAP, or you are getting short and you are below the VWAP. I know the most people are actually using this thing, which are the standard deviation bands from the VWAP, and they can be used as a kind of a dynamic value area. Something I covered in the auction market theory videos, where you basically, this is a weekly VWAP, okay, and you will, from the previous week, you will just extend this and you will use it as kind of a dynamic value area, or once market breaks above the standard deviation, you are basically expecting some sort of a trend move. If that is not going to happen, then you are expecting the mean reversion back to the VWAP or the other side of the band, and when market is just kind of breaking below, you are once again using these as a SR. But once market accept back inside, you can see this is a nice one, where we accept back inside those VWAP bands, and you can play mean reversion towards the mean, which is the weekly VWAP in this case, obviously. So it's a good tool. I don't know. I don't necessarily use it though. It's just something that you will have kind of a better ways, I think, to do things, or you just don't need to use it. But if you want, it will give you overall nice idea in what type of environment you are. If you will be using these VWAP bands. One thing you should really be kind of a more careful of is trying to play the mean reversion every time the VWAP is outside of any sort of standard deviation. This can be extremely tricky, basically. You'll be fading this, it will go a little bit against you, then it will leave the standard deviations again, you'll be just fading. Eventually you will get it right, but hope you won't get liquidated here. So just these mean reversion tools and constantly fading everything is not the best way of doing things. Volume, the point of control for bar-to-bar basis, I mentioned this couple of times. This is something we will do when we will be swing trading, as you don't need to look at footprint and each transaction at the levels. You can use something like this, which displays a point of control for every bar. I showed you the indicators that are, once again, they are not in Excel chart, but it's on Sierra chart and TradingView, which you won't be using for swing trading anyway. But the bar-to-bar POC is marking out point of control for every bar. It's a simplified version of footprint because it's you can spot the absorption and also, you know, kind of conviction in buying and selling by just looking at the point of control. In a, you know, and in strong trends, you want to see this POC at tops and bottoms of the candles, basically, because even without seeing a volume distribution, you can very easily assume right now, after you know all these things, how volume profiles get created, that the POC for this candle, the volume profile for this candle is going to look something like this. Okay, the most volume was traded inside here, so the distribution will be around it. This is a 30-minute chart of gold. On a higher time frames, this is more than enough. You most of the times don't even need a footprint. Footprint is a nice confluence, the delta is a nice confluence, but when you are hitting it of a nice level of reference, which in this case is obviously a support here, you know, you are basically good to go. And if you are scared, you will just wait for the impulse after that and you will buy any sort of pullback. But to quickly go back to this, you know, there are two types of point of control. First one, which is when it's inside a wick and candle is closing at the opposite side. This is signal of this trapped positioning. You know, your volume distribution is around the wick, so everyone who, you know, all these buyers and sellers, or, you know, obviously here buyers, here sellers, are trapped inside these levels. The opposite of that is when you have these kind of a I know the guy who made it popular, I forgot his name, he called them a bulldozer candles, you know, where really the selling is happening and the move and the volume distribution is kind of happening around these levels. Okay, so this is the opposite. This shows a strong conviction in the market. Once again, don't get too insane about this. Okay, it's you know, don't look at POC of each candle. For example, right here you are going long with a clean target above this kind of a flat high, mostly. You know, you have this candle right here, and then you have this candle right here, and then you have this candle actually hits your take profit, so this candle is good. But you have these candles right here, which can be signal of any sort of reversal. You can see that volume is mostly distributed in the wicks. Don't get too scared from these things. Okay, obviously at this point, when we will talk about the trade management, your trade is your stop loss is kind of chilling a little bit above the entry. So the worst thing that can happen is you will get taken out for a, you know, very small profit, but you will find out that oftentimes that is better than you will just get too scared and close the trade here. And because nothing fundamentally here, nothing changed, you know, you still have this sort of a compression you are taking a trade into, and you are, you know, even using a simple SR, you are just above gaining levels of the market structure. So obviously the rejection here is not ideal, but it's better to just tighten up your stop loss under the next point of reference, which is obviously this little bit of a cluster here, than just, you know, exiting the trade in a full and then seeing this to happen in basically the next two candles. Okay, so this is for the POC at the bar. And that's it for the volume and volume indicators. Like I said, it's fairly simple. The high relative volumes, signals of tops and bottoms, and also the strong breakouts. The low relative volumes you usually won't even see. Use them on a higher time frames. These are once again the intraday things in a Sierra chart. There are only in a intraday chart books. I used to use them a lot in bonds for any kind of a, you know, pullback levels, but the high relative volumes are more important. And like I said, they are marking out ends of the moves, and also they can be signals of a genuine breakouts in the market. The volume weighted average price, it's a good indicator in established trends. You know, when you want to use it as a dynamic SR, but market is heading in sort of your direction, because on a flat days like this, market will just trade through it often, and you might get self, shaken out from a trade which you should be holding instead. The VWAP bands, I am not using them, but there are a good tool for understanding the kind of a rotation of a developing values, because VWAP is basically a very similar thing to a point of control. It's the level where the most volume was traded for this average price. So you'll find out that POC and VWAP is usually not far from each other. And the bar POC is a simplified version of a footprint used in a swing trading scenarios. Okay, we have finished the section about the volumes, and now we are going to take a look how to connect all things together.